Hey, hey, hey. And you might be watching us live on YouTube, because we are live on YouTube twice a week these days, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Wednesdays and Sundays. Tune in, leave us a message if you like, send us an email. I don't think we have an email address for you to send to, though, so not yet. But.
Well, let's see. No, I don't know.
We'll get one, though.
Yeah, I thought we had Jimmy Doane at something.
Yeah, we'll get in Facebook. We'll share it. We'll share it on Facebook.
Right?
Soon.
We got one of those, sure.
So, all right. So, what's happening today?
Okay, well, just as a quick note, I spent this week binging on Ken Burns' Civil War.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of I'm up to the what they call either Manassas or Bull Run, where the Rebs routed the Union Army, and that was the first battle where they started. But I didn't realize that the South had a population of about a quarter of the North, number one, and a GDP about a quarter of the North. So I mean, they were talking about underdogs. Oof.
I should have got their butts whooped, but.
Yeah, well, you look at some of that stuff, the mistakes that were made. But we can talk about that later. Anyway, it's typical Ken Burns, and he made just a quick mention of the fact that for 3 months, Lincoln unilaterally suspended the Constitution, which was illegal, of course, and Justice Taney, it turns out, who was a racist, but he issued a thing that said you can't do that, and Lincoln said, well, yes, I can, and so that was that. Okay, let me see here. Little news here in Florida. 2 people. Fernandina Beach apparently happens to be shark central. 2 people were bit, and they closed the beach completely. So this is going to hurt our tourism, I guess, here in Florida.
It's reopened already, I'm sure.
Yeah. Of course, the fire department described them as alleged shark attacks. Well, because if you're gonna scare away all the tourists, I mean. Yeah.
How about suspected? I mean, alleged sounds like it's some kind of
There's a question as to whether it might have happened or not. I don't know.
Well, it sounds like they're using the legal standard to try to protect the shark or something.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Right. Yeah, no, that's for sure. Let's see, and let's see. I did mention that France beat Croatia, right? World Cup, and Madonna is turning 60. Hard to believe. The article about her was that she has really done fairly well since the mid '80s or whatever.
Oh my God! Yeah, she's
still a consideration. But you think as you start to get up there in the 60 department, that's
hard to lead the pop culture at that age.
Yeah, well, it is true. I mean, I think about the people that I liked, of course, that are way up there now, like Joan Baez or Cher. They're and
Cher has some amazing ability to continue to evolve, and Madonna has done a phenomenal job too. I mean, 60, who still has a career?
Look at Tina Turner.
Yeah.
I mean, God, she still has her legs insured for a couple of $1 million. God almighty.
Hey, more power to her, man.
Yeah, she's smart. She moved to Switzerland. Okay, then next thing is that I got here is there's a price war going on. Capitalism at work here, okay? A price war for the space rides.
Ah, cool.
Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk.
They have competition.
There's
one other.
Guess what happens in competition? So Jeff Bezos has reduced the price to $200,000 as competing with Elon Musk's $250,000.
Okay.
Now I don't know what the amenities are on either one.
Right.
But it's interesting.
Bottle of Cristal or something.
I don't know, but I mean, what's fascinating to me, of course, is these are private enterprises. And this is exactly what happens in private enterprise is competition. It reduces the price, and in some instances,
it's hard to believe that they would have any margin at all.
Interesting you should mention that. According to this article, the people who don't know anything about it but have run the numbers have said that they're going to lose millions on every flight. But maybe they'll make it up in volume. I don't know.
Right.
But again, one of the things that you do.
Initially they must mean.
Right. Oh yeah. No. I mean, it's when you think about it. I mean, even when Ford comes out with a new model, if you were to allocate the costs, the first 1,000 cars cost $1 million each.
Right, exactly.
And so it isn't until they really ramp up.
Yeah, look, they're not doing it. Those guys, they know how to make cash.
Yeah.
Let's put it. They know how to make money in business, so they're not going to put out a business out there that is going to
not a Solyndra
go kablooey. Although I say that Tesla was, of course, supported by all the taxpayer money.
$7,100 each apparently is going to go away.
Yeah.
Apparently that's the subsidy, but he's ramping up his Model 3, blah blah, whatever it is.
Well, that's been the promise, is that he's going to ramp it up.
Okay. Oh, really?
Yeah. This is one of those things like, well, we're going to pay back the debt at the end of the
right.
of the presidential cycle.
Well, apparently he's this factory or whatever in China, or the battery places and so forth, they're really, they've expanded.
Well, yeah. Well, he built the big gigafactory out there in California or Nevada or someplace to build the batteries. The problem is the technology doesn't actually exist yet. He's really playing around in fields that are not well settled science. And
there's no such thing as settled science.
Well, but obviously you can get it down to a few significant digits.
Okay.
But they don't have it within the significant digits required to have those batteries at the level that they need to have those cars in active production. For example, it still takes a half an hour to charge one.
Yeah.
You stop at the gas station. You're out. With your petrol, with your petrified oil. You're out of there in 5 minutes,
right,
or less.
Yeah.
And but no, you have to go have like an ice cream or a Starbucks or something like nearby.
Well, of course, what that means is, at least for the time being, it's a local item. That is, it has a range of 150, 200 miles.
Yeah, something like that.
So you think about it. I don't know around here. I drive 5 or 10 miles a day.
Right.
And of course, then you recharge it at night if you want to. But I'm saying that from here I could go to Jacksonville and back, 75 miles away, easy, and that's no problem. Of course, the other thing that's going to drain that battery is your air conditioner here in Florida. Man, it's hot. But anyway, the other thing that Elon Musk, of course, did was to come up with a little mini submarine to try and rescue the Thai kids, who are all safe now, by the way.
Yeah.
And the guy in Thailand told him, "You can take your submarine and shove it where." So I thought,
who knows what was said?
Well, it was in Thai. It was in Thaiish.
Right, exactly. So is that a saying in
translation?
Or and I don't know. That seems kind of whatever.
No reason to do it, right? So at any rate, the if it holds, he's going to undercut Branson, who is charging roughly $250,000. So let's see, founder and CEO takes Amazon pricing strategy to start. Despite the tremendous cost of the ticket, analysts expect Blue Origin and its peers to lose millions of dollars per flight, at least in the early years, which of course would make sense. As they get more and more experience, this stuff is ramping up pretty fast. Another item I've got, let's see here, it has to do with Rod Rosenstein.
Okay, yes.
Now, there's a couple of things that are parallel here. One is the fact that Stroke, or whatever his name is, testified.
Stroke,
whatever.
Yeah, I think it's Struck. I don't know. It looks like Stork to me, but
there's a Z in there.
Yeah, that's Swedish or something. What is it?
No, it's not Swedish.
I don't know where.
At any rate, the deal was on Rosenstein has thrown red meat to the prostitutes, because what he did is he indicted a dozen or so, 11 or 12 Russians on collusion or for monkeying up with the election.
Right. So, yeah, for people who don't know, Rod Rosenstein is the assistant deputy attorney general at this point, and he's in charge since the departure
He was appointed by Mueller.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, was he appointed? Okay. Well, anyway, he's in there. it was interesting. So he's indicted these 12 Russians, and he held a press conference for it.
Right.
I mean, to me, that seems sort of political. It's weird because they don't refer to the president or anything like that.
Well, not only I have not actually read the indictment, but apparently the indictment says nothing. There's no evidence in the indictment.
Okay.
It's just we think that this is what, and that's what indictments are, as you well know.
They're supposed to allege some kinds of facts, but sometimes it can just parallel the language right out of the statute.
Well, one of the things that, of course, as we've all known, it is well known among people in the law enforcement that an attorney general can indict a ham sandwich. That's and so this is what's happened here is they've come up with some who knows what all and have decided to indict these 11 of them or whatever it is.
We'll see.
But what are they? This is the silliest thing on the planet. These guys aren't coming here.
Well, we don't know what I mean, perhaps they are. Perhaps they're regular envoys or something like that.
No, apparently they're part of the military.
Okay.
I don't know for sure.
Yeah, good luck getting jurisdiction. Well, so I mean, it's kind of a weird thing. The weirdest thing about it to me is that they would do it out in the open in the press.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to indict 12 Russians, go ahead, but why make a show about it? And that seems to me as though he's trying to imply that somehow this is connected with the president's situation.
Interestingly enough, several of the, let me just see if I've got it here, two House Republicans are seeking to file impeachment documents against Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein as early as Monday. So apparently, whatever he's done, it's got the ire up of somebody. Now I don't know.
Well, yeah, I think that probably is related to the Trump situation. That is, I think there's some people who believe that they can get Rosenstein out of there, but then they could fire Mueller with impunity.
Well, these guys are members of the House Freedom Caucus, which I believe is an offshoot of the
Nazi Party.
No, of the Tea Parties.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what they are. I could be wrong on that, but. It says Rosenstein, who oversees Special Counsel Robert Mueller's scandal-plagued probe into alleged Russian collusion, and was the official who named FBI veteran to lead the probe last year, repeatedly stonewalled requests from congressional Republicans for access to documents pertaining to the investigation.
As we talked about, that was just discovery situation, and the fact is that the committee didn't have the complete level of security oversight that the Rosenstein and his group have. So that was a non-issue.
Okay.
And so I don't know. I think they're just targeting him generally. Although, like I said, I'm suspicious of this press conference. Now, the Peter Strzok thing, that's really interesting to me. What a shit show that was.
It is. What's fascinating about it, just to tell you, they've had on both sides. There are people that said, "What is this guy? He got killed," and then and other people say he nailed it.
Right.
He made fools of the committee, and the other one says he's this smirking, laughing, whatever. He's worthless, So
okay.
So what do you think?
So the reality is,
okay. I see the reality.
Yeah. The reality is there was absolutely no reason that they should have called this guy to a congressional hearing.
Really?
If you want to depose him in a normal situation, go ahead. But this was bringing him in to ask him, did you do it?
Yeah.
And it was just the dumbest thing ever in terms of the plan. And this is, again, another incompetent display by Gowdy, from my perspective, as a prosecutor.
Right.
He just basically just brought him in and said, what did you mean by this? And then, what's crazy, what's really crazy, and this is what cuts back the other way, is that the guy, Strzok, said something quite fascinating from my perspective, in that he said at one point, I don't remember sending that text. That is the key text, which said, we'll stop him.
Right.
Or we'll stop it. And referring to the Trump's campaign. And that, he said he didn't remember it. Now that was the moment where if Trey Gowdy was an effective prosecutor, he would have probed that situation. He would have said, really? You don't remember that? So, when did you first discover that you wrote those words? What was your impression of what you meant? He could have done all kinds of things like that, And if that guy is, if Strzok is really lying, and it's like your mind has a way of blocking out stuff that it doesn't want to remember. So the fact that he doesn't remember that one critical text, to me, is almost like an unconscious tell that he doesn't want to remember that because he knew it was inappropriate in some way. Now, whether he was going to do anything, I can't imagine. I don't imagine that Strzok was going to do anything using FBI resources. Yeah, exactly. What could he possibly do?
Well, this is what, if you listen to, one of my favorite people to listen to is Scott Adams.
Okay.
He's on Periscope like every day.
This show brought to you by Scott Adams.
Yes, that's right. He's the guy who does Dilbert, but he's really smart, and it's interesting. His take was that if you have that we're going to stop him, if the we meant Paige or whatever her name was, us two or whatever are going to stop, or by we meant the voters.
Right, and that's what he said in the hearing. Was I meant the American people?
The American people, right? And
perfectly reasonable explanation.
Exactly, perfectly reasonable.
So that's why this whole thing was an exercise in futility, because he had a perfectly reasonable explanation for what he meant.
I mean, and if you had to weigh the two, I mean, because
exactly,
you'd say, is it possible that he meant that she and I are going to do this,
right, or me and the FBI,
me and the FBI, even, right, and the corrupt FBI, whatever.
right, me and my group in the FBI. No, I'm sorry, he meant the American people. That's the obvious interpretation.
And interestingly enough, the American people voted for the opposite by 3 million votes.
Right, exactly.
They voted.
They tried.
They tried. That's right. They tried. For God's sakes, I mean, the voters tried like hell to win, and they forgot about the rule about the Electoral College. Whoops. So anyway, I thought it was interesting that the fact that now they want to impeach Rosenstein, which of course you wonder how they're going to do that, because an impeachment now also involves the Senate.
Right. I mean, all they got to do. Well, let's see. For that office.
Well, there's
a special procedure for every office. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I would think. And
I don't know about that. We have to Google that and let us know, okay? Because we'd like to find out. But the fact is that if they could just censure him or they could do a lot of other things besides full-blown impeachment.
Right.
I mean, they can make it tough for him. I forget what some of the other things they can do, but
yeah, again, I think
impeachment is pretty strong.
Yeah, well, that's the nuclear option for him, for their situation, and people have often said Trump could just fire him,
right?
But that would be a bad move,
right?
From my perspective, that's what I would do if I were Trump. Forget it. Do your bull in a china shop again. Just go for it, and they're not gonna. The reaction would have to be, that is to say, the negative implication there is that they're going to impeach him in the Congress. Well, they're not going to do that just because he fires this guy or that guy.
Right, yeah, and they couldn't do it anyway. There's too many.
Well, exactly.
There's too many repubs, which is interesting. Speaking of repubs and so on, just a little small digression here on the confirmation of what's his name for
Kavanaugh.
For it turns out there's a couple of Democrats have told Chucky Schumer to go bite my butt. Because I'm in a red district, and if I vote against, if I vote to not thing, I'm going to lose the election.
Right. Well, you heard obviously about his credit card debt.
Yes. Well, of course, the thing about the credit card debt was, so what?
And well, he racked up a whole bunch of debt, and then he paid it off. Well, I mean, here's the deal. If you're out there buying tickets, which is what this is for, he was buying tickets for scalping.
Well, might have been scalping. I don't know. Get him for that. But he was buying tickets for season tickets,
right,
for a bunch of people, and he was buying them on his credit card. And of course, when the credit card came in, he paid it off. I mean, what?
I don't know. Sounds pretty shifty. Also,
shifty.
I heard he had at least 2 overdue library books.
No.
I swear.
My God.
That's coming out. Exactly.
That's it. No, that's it.
He's going down.
Yeah, he's going down, right.
No, I don't know what they're going to...
Well, it's interesting that Chucky has said he's going to fight tooth and nail. I said this last time.
Well, Andrew Cuomo said he's going to sue the Supreme Court.
Right. And of course, what's funny, you got to ask yourself this.
Are you going to pass a law against Congress, too?
No,
They're going to call the National Guard on the president?
No, but I mean, what's interesting about this is you sue the Supreme Court,
Right.
okay, and then it goes to the appeals court,
Right.
and then it goes to the district court,
right?
and then it goes to the Supreme Court.
Right. Well, they request immediate certiorari from the lowest court. You know,
But I mean, what's funny about this is you have to lose anyway as soon as it gets to the Supreme Court because they're not.
well, you can't. Obviously, you can't. It's
That's
like
what I'm saying. This shows the stupidity of this guy.
Obviously, legal acumen is not his forte.
No, absolutely not. It's just funny. So anyway, do you want to talk at all about? I don't have anything on it, but I only got two more little things here. But about Trump's visit.
Oh yes, and actually, I will transport us forthwith over to our respective locations.
Okay.
You are visiting London. Obviously, there's Big Ben in the background, and right behind you, I think you're on top of the palace.
Okay.
And I'm, of course, in Moscow. I'm, of course, in Moscow.
Well, of course, the problem with being in Moscow is that you should be in Helsinki.
I know. I thought about that. But I'm in Moscow doing a deal.
Okay.
While he's over in Helsinki.
Okay, right. That's right. As long as he's not here.
That's it.
I can
The mice
do my
will
stuff.
play.
That's right. That's right.
Me and the oligarchs.
That's right.
So no, he's obviously being hypnotized over there by Putin. He's going over there to kiss the ring.
Yeah, right.
After he did not bend the knee in London.
No.
He failed to bend the knee.
It is stunning. There were like one of the things was there was like I don't know 50,000 people.
I cannot believe he actually slapped the Queen on the ass.
Boy, didn't he? I thought he grabbed her in front.
right. That's what it was.
That's what it was.
I'm pretty sure he did that. I mean, I don't know if you noticed this, but he walked in front of her.
Oh,
and
that's
hand,
right.
His hand went back like
Right.
this.
Yeah, you
and
see him doing that to Melania every once in a while. He swipes backwards like that.
No,
that's his
they were
go-to
all
move.
upset about the protocol because apparently you're not supposed to do that to the Queen.
Yeah.
That's what I understand.
Right.
He marched in front of her.
It was a little flattery. He was trying to show her, hey, look, we're
Yeah.
still interested.
Yeah, right. Still interested. It's only 30 years or so to separate them. So
That's it.
no, it's interesting that they were all the fact is that they were saying that he was snubbed by some of the royal family who didn't show up or whatever, and then he. And then he met with the mayor of London, the Muslim guy, and he you could look that up on YouTube. Yeah, right. You could look that up on YouTube. He was being interviewed. Did I say this last time? He'd been interviewed by Maria Bartiromo.
Okay.
And she, of course, is kind of a lefty, and she asked him these softball questions, and he had some pretty good answers in a way about the about the diversity and how it worked and blah blah blah. But basically, what Trump was saying is that if you look around here, what you're seeing is your culture is being ruined, and as has been said by Mark Stein in his book After America or something like that, I forget what it is. Really great. He's talking about the demographics of population. Births, and the simple fact is you have to have in a civilization you have to have 2.14 births per couple in order to keep stability in the population. Well, we don't. And in fact, you look at England and Italy, for instance, it's like 1.1 or 1.2, and what's happening
Catholics?
Yeah, seriously. And what's happening, of course, is that in these countries, the Muslim, the immigrants, as it were, and most of them are Muslim, are having children. They're having 3.9 or something per.
Well, don't our poor people tend to have a whole lot of?
No, that's the no, not.
What about the growing? Isn't there a growing Hispanic population?
Yes, but the whole point is that it's not enough. I think we're still at like 1.94 or something like that. I'm not sure. You have to read to find out. But the point is. You can't imagine. This has to do with exponentials, and how well it does.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, because extra people die.
The point is that if you when you look at it this way, your grandparents have one kid, and then they get married and they have one kid. So now you've got two children supporting all the grandparents, say, which there are four of them. Well, you can't have that. I mean,
you mean economically?
Economically, you can't do it. I mean, the point is that the shrinking it's an extinguishing
thing.
thing.
But that assumes that the grandparents didn't properly save and invest. I mean, right? You're talking about Social Security?
Or whatever it is, however it is.
Social programming?
Whatever it might be, I don't know. But yeah, they may have saved, but you have to look at the grandparents now are, how can I put this? If you look at just the diminishing in this particular population because of the way that because they're not they're not replacing themselves. So eventually this is an extinguishing thing where that particular population, and here in the United States it's the white privileged population that is basically declining. And in Italy, it's the Italians. There are going to be no Italians left, basically, in Italy. No, I mean, seriously, by 2050, at the current rate, you don't realize it's exponential.
You know, the Pope just walks out and says, I would like everybody to go home and make love tonight. And they, man, boom, population boom.
Well, the thing is, of course, they can't do it. Again, I haven't made myself clear on this, but I will say, you have to take my word for it, and if you read Mark Stein's book, he'll show you how this works. And it's an exponential, reverse exponential function. Okay. That is, when you have a large population that is not reproducing, it obviously gets smaller with each generation.
Right.
And so it can't.
One would think that if 2 replaced 2, that would be stable. But I can understand what you're saying. If the exponential factor is different, it's 2.19 or 2.14, whatever you said. Okay.
Yeah, because two are being replaced in Italy with 1.4.
Right, well, obviously that doesn't work.
That's what I'm saying. And so when you look at all of the European countries, none of them are reproducing.
Okay.
Except with immigrants.
Okay.
And so, you know, that's... and
so immigrants are vital, is what you're saying.
Well, not exactly, because they bring a different... It's a different culture. It's like, you know, it's like an invasion. I mean, you think about it. There are more mosques there are more mosques in England and Britain, in London now, than there are churches.
If you're in Jordan, okay, and there's 3 million people in a tent city, okay, that I could classify as sort of an invasion. That is an excess of immigration, but a few million people in a country of 300 million.
Okay, for us, maybe for that particular thing, but our invasion is being primarily with the Latinos.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't know for sure, but as I say, ours right now is not. We're not the white people of this country, if you want to call it that, or the citizens are not replacing this actual citizens, according to Mark.
Right.
So they have to. So that's a bit of the culture. What I'm saying is the culture changes. And it changes rather dramatically from what it was when I was a kid. I mean, it will. So we'll see. A couple of generations. Okay, so much for that. But so now let's see. Today's Sunday. Tomorrow he's supposed to go to Trump's supposed to go to Helsinki. Okay. To meet with Putin. And that the pundits. I haven't finished watching the McLaughlin group yet, but I just started it before I came over here. But the pundits are all on which side or the other. You know, Putin's either got Trump on a leash,
right,
or you know, Trump's, you know, he's way out of his class with the dictator and so forth and so on. And of course, he's.
That was Eleanor Cliff, I bet you.
I don't know. I haven't gotten that far yet. But the fact is that
I don't think so, man. I think he's going to do fine.
He's going to, of course, what he did do was to chastise Germany specifically for the Russian pipeline.
Right, we talked about that last time.
Okay, because I personally don't think that's a problem at all.
No.
That's called
trade.
Trade, right. And, you know, if trade doesn't cross borders, soldiers will. So that's the way I've always said this. But he's
again, that I believe that was all just posturing.
Right, and I agree with you. And the other thing, you know, they said is he going to ask? Is he going to ask Putin about the collusion?
Right.
Are you kidding? I mean, are you nuts?
Well,
yes, we did that to yes, we.
It's kind of a power move in the sense, though. And it is the elephant in the room. They got to talk about it a little bit. Trump says he'll ask him. I believe he will ask him. I believe it'll just be one of the. Hey, so you see in our press. They've got you, you know,
right.
They're coming after you from Italy. And would you like to toss up some guys or whatever?
Yeah.
You know, and he'll say, you know, how about some champagne or something?
Yeah, right.
You know, he won't.
Caviar.
Right, exactly.
Black Sea. No, no, but the thing is.
How about a Russian hooker for you?
Okay. Yeah, right. That's right, special golden shower. Okay,
That's
so
it.
Anyway, no, the deal is that he can come out of this meeting and say, hey, he told me no collusion.
Right.
End of story.
Exactly.
End of story.
He said no.
He said no. So what?
No way.
Yeah, I mean, I trust. I looked into his eyes.
That's right. I could see. Who is it? Bush had said that.
Bush, yeah, Bush. So I'm sitting there thinking that, this is all over now. No more collusion. You can drop the investigation. He told me no.
That's right. That's right. He gave me his word. Scouts honor.
Okay, Scouts honor. That's right. Scouts honor.
That's it.
So anyway, that's interesting. So we'll for our Wednesday show, 4:00. We will chit chat about the Helsinki. And the whatever happens
becoming
after that.
nuclear winter.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's another thing they have. I was reading this thing about the climate change, and there are people. I had 2 or 3 stories today in the Sun or someplace. Is it hot enough for you yet? That kind of stuff. And,
all right, we're not doing climate change.
Okay, we're not. No, we're not going to do climate.
Not right now.
We're not going to talk about the huge iceberg.
Well, here's what we'll talk about in terms of weather. Stormy.
Yes, stormy.
Stormy Daniels was arrested with using logic that only Saudi Arabia could appreciate.
Yeah, right.
She was protected. She was protected from inappropriate contact by being arrested. And
is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
She was protected for her own good. She was taken into custody. Now they've dropped all the charges since.
Right, they did. Now just to bring everybody up to steam.
Right.
What she did, she was on in New Orleans, I think.
Ohio.
It's in Ohio. Okay, well she was right. She was doing a stage presentation. I mean, who didn't know? This is stormy. Why would anybody go unless they didn't want to see this thing? Okay.
Right, by the way, this show brought to you by Sirens Gentlemen's Club.
Okay. So anyway, here's what she did was apparently it's against the law for you to touch the performer.
Right.
Now, what happened was her shtick, so to speak, is where she goes and grabs people's heads and shoves them between these huge melons.
The old motorboat.
Right, exactly. Does one of these things back. Well, apparently she had been doing it for some time, and she'd done it with a couple of patrons. And then there happened to be 4 agents in there, and 3 of them went up to do this,
right?
And the 4th happened to be over near the bar, and then after the 3rd one had gotten his face smushed,
I don't know. I'm going to need to go check too.
Hey, Bob, you need to go. We need to confirm that's what
right.
You need. Oh, and Mark, you're next.
That's it.
After the 3rd one, they went over and escorted her, and I think a couple other people out. But she was released almost immediately. I mean,
well, yeah. Well, that's. Interesting, the statute only applies to people who are regularly working at that establishment, and since she was a visiting dancer, it could not apply to her.
I see.
They tried to rope it in. They said something like, we were just doing our regular checking for human trafficking and yeah. I'm so sure.
Yeah. I'm going to give my stroke impression.
Yeah, right. Oh man, crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, so Stormy is out and on the loose. So we'll see her next. But I mean, who wouldn't know if you're going in there? Okay, got anything else?
Let's see. Not really.
Okay, I do have one. I got a couple little things just to kind of finish this out here. Okay. I'm going to finish up early. The publisher of the East Bay Express weekly newspaper resigned on Saturday, admitting to indiscretions. Now, what happened was he apparently spiked a story. This is a newspaper. I think it's in San Francisco, I think. And he spiked a story that had the N-word in it and something, and he talked about it. And so Stephen Buell stepped down one day after posting a lengthy apology and pledge on the newspaper's website, to which he admitted he had used derogatory words while discussing a story that he unilaterally moved from the newspaper website to describe white people singing along to live hip-hop songs that contain the N-word. Well, this shows you the level of political correctness, because we've seen where people, I mean, you couldn't even read Tom Sawyer now on social media because the N-word is in there, and if you did that, you'd be. I mean, this is, to me, the political correctness, especially out there, has gone way far. And of course, speaking of out there, one other thing is that apparently your good friend Senator Feinstein has been dissed.
Yeah, are the Dems moving left?
I guess.
Is it?
I mean,
going
left,
full social
more
democratic
left than
socialist?
Feinstein. I mean,
Yeah, man.
the guy that they apparently the guy that they endorsed is a
Single payer. He wants single payer health care.
right. I mean, he wants all the lefty stuff. And
$15 minimum wage.
He's running on the campaign run by what's her name from New York, the girl that just
Ocasio-Cortez.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently this is the new thing, and I saw an article where there are 3 or 4 Dems that are running on that platform that they think they can get away with it. So
we shall see.
We shall see. That'll be fun. Let's see this other thing. Let me just make sure if I found a thing. Oh, this is one thing that's interesting. Last night, Mrs. Jimmy and I went and ate at someplace, I guess, whatever, New Deal over here, one of our favorite places.
It's there in London.
Yeah, right. Well, we took the Concorde. No, there is no Concorde. No, the fact is,
SpaceX rocket.
Yeah, right, the X rocket. Anyway, I had to ask for a straw.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you brought that up. So,
okay.
So this is my latest investment.
Okay.
I figure when the straws go down, which they have, this is going to be worth a fortune, right?
What is it?
This is 100 straws, 100 plastic straws.
Oh, you sinner.
Oh, I know.
You horrible person.
Oh, no, this is
You're anti-eco.
Turtle killer and...
Yes, exactly.
But I'm keeping them in the box. See, the point is...
It's a plastic box, of course.
Well, okay. Yeah, I don't know. A seagull could get in there.
Yeah.
Or anything.
And
but
die.
Right. No, interesting. I heard that Starbucks stopped using
Starbucks
straws.
Has stopped handing out plastic. And of course, one of the things...
But they increased the amount of plastic that was in there.
That's the thing. They apparently, now what they've got is a top that's like a sippy cup.
Right.
And somebody went and weighed. Somebody went out and actually weighed, 3.2 grams, 2.4 grams, and it's actually more plastic in the sippy cup top. I mean, and for a private company that is socially conscious and everything, you think, well, wait a minute, this can't be.
It looks good out there in California, and
yeah.
They've been those turtles with the things coming out of their nose. They're out. It's all over the place.
It is.
But I think somebody I was reading an article pointed out, it's the microplastic that is really an issue, if anything.
Right.
It's not the whole straws.
No,
and stuff
right.
Like
it's the
that.
microplastic, and that's right. What's interesting to me, of course, is whatever happened to paper straws. I mean, when I was growing up,
they suck. They suck. Generally.
Well, they're supposed to suck. I mean,
they don't suck. Is what their problem is.
Well, I mean, they dissolve in water or something?
Yeah, they collapse. Well, look, I would bet that they can make paper straws pretty dang good these days. But
well, now Starbucks did say that their sippy cup top was biodegradable.
Right, the top is, the straw's not.
Right, so they figure that as far as the increase on the harm to the environment has been reduced.
Negligible. Well, the new top.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
So,
right.
Of course.
They're a private company, so as far as I'm concerned, they can do what they want.
Yep.
I'm glad. If it were a municipality, like I guess Seattle recently banned straws.
Oh yeah.
Right. I mean, to me, that's ridiculous because you're actively reducing quality of living for some illusory benefit to the environment.
I mean, and it's straws. When you think about it, what about the plastic bottles from water?
Right. Well, that's the whole point. Is that
plastic plates?
Straws represent such an incredibly micro part of the overall plastic contribution.
Yeah.
That it looks good. It sounds okay, but really,
what is amazing, of course, is when you think about it. If you go into any, just about any store that serves a salad or whatever, all the utensils are plastic.
Right. Well, I mean, plastic is very useful.
Yeah. It's what's interesting. Of course, it reminds me of the Dustin Hoffman movie at the end of the with the
whole court's out of order.
No. It's the end of it was his very first movie, just about where he was Hello, Mrs. Robinson.
Oh, right. Yes.
Okay, and at the very end, the guy looks at him and says, "Plastics, man.
That's right.
The future is plastics."
Words, right.
And that's
one word.
That's right.
And he's right. He was very.
This is like 1960 when this movie came out. And boy, talk about prophetic.
Yeah.
So Anyway, that's one of the other things. Okay, I think that I have. I think that. Oh, I've got one other little thing.
What's that?
Although it's not that all that important. I guess you might call it a light note here. We're going to get ready to run. This guy William Montanus was given 180 days in jail because he refused to unlock his phones.
Really? Well,
they stopped him
Mm-hmm.
for something fairly inconsequential. He was stopped according to something small, whatever it was. But then they asked, could they search his car? He was stopped for when he backed out of his driveway. I guess it was an improper entrance into the street or something like that. Nobody was hurt or anything, but they pulled him over.
All right, we're getting pretty nebulous here. Why don't you let me take a look at that one, and then we'll cover it in detail next time.
Well, let me just finish.
Okay.
I can cover it in detail now.
Okay.
So anyway, they thought, well, can we search your car? He says no. So they brought a drug dog. Drug dog went nuts. So they looked in his car and found a microscopic amount of marijuana and some marijuana oil or something like that. So then it escalated from there, and they searched his car and they pulled out these 2 cell phones. And they said, we have reason to believe that wherever you got this stuff is on your cell phone. And he said, I don't remember the passwords. I don't know anything about it. So they went in front of the judge, and the judge held him in contempt for not opening up the cell phones and sentenced him to 180 days in jail. Well, it turns out the guy apparently was a miscreant. I mean, they found, when they finally did all this, they found some more drugs. And apparently, based on this stuff, I don't know if they had it before, but he might have been a drug dealer. I don't know. But the point was that the judge put him for 6 months in jail simply for contempt for not opening up the phone. And he basically said, I can't remember the passwords.
Right. It sounds like the judge didn't believe that he couldn't remember the passwords.
Right.
It sounds like like you said, there was probably evidence that the judge knew about, that he was implicated in a much larger situation. It is concerning, though, because the recent rulings seem to indicate that we were going back in the other direction in terms of privacy on your phone.
Right.
I certainly what would not have been, I would think, discoverable without a warrant would be, and maybe they had a warrant.
They did get a warrant.
Okay.
They did get a warrant. Yes, that's right. I meant to mention that. They did get a warrant to search the phone.
Okay, yeah. And so I was going to say his locations, which obviously the phone keeps track of, and they could have tracked back to wherever he went to, and if he was a drug dealer, they could see where he's going.
Well, all they would need anyway was the phone number.
Yeah, but it would coordinate. You would have a phone call to a phone number, which was at a different location. Then you'd have him going to the bank to get money, and then over to the drug dealer's house.
Right. But I mean, they wouldn't have to hack the phone to get that. I wouldn't think.
Well, they could. I'm talking about the cell data information in terms of where the cell phone has been.
Right. But I mean, if all they would need would be the phone number and go to the cell company.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't have to hack the phone to get that.
No, it's not on. The information is probably not even on the phone anymore.
No. I don't know.
So
anyway, all right. Well, that was the other little minor legal thing.
And, I remember one other thing I wanted to mention, and that is fake news legislation has become a thing.
Okay.
And Malaysia recently passed a big statute which called for huge fines, $130,000 fines for spreading false information, and they did this all right before an election.
God.
Yeah, and you can see what they do. They're trying to use it to literally target the other side. Now, fortunately, in Malaysia, the opposing people won, but they haven't unpassed the law yet, which is interesting. Also, France, Germany, Brazil, other countries are considering that type of legislation.
But of course, one of the interesting things is, how do you know when a politician is lying, and it's when his mouth is open when he's speaking? I mean, the fact is that it's all fake. I was just reading the paper this morning, and the hyperbole that comes out of these people is unbelievable. Now, the next thing you know, children will be dying in the streets and blah blah. No, shut up. Everybody knows it's fake.
And I'm with you. And to me, the real cure for fake news is corrective news. It's better news. The cure for false advertising is not a law which prevents false advertising. It's Consumer Reports.
Right.
And you don't. If the guy comes out and says, "Look, this is miracle cream. All you got to do is rub this on. You'll de-age 30 years." Okay, don't believe it because it sounds too good to be true. And if you really want to know, check Consumer Reports. It'll tell you. And it's the same thing for any information. You go through enough news stories, you will corroborate the information or the information will be corrected. And that is the way to eliminate fake news. It's to simply crowd it out with actual news.
Well, it's interesting because one of the things I have found is that when you look at a story, very often there's comments. And there'll be comments on both sides. And to me, it's interesting. And it's sometimes you read them, the comments, and they both sound great, but I mean, well, okay, I'm not going to even bother with that one or something. Speaking of which, talk about fake news. Let me just one last thing, and we're out of here. I was listening to the Kim Commando show the other day. She's on Saturday at nights or something for about 3 hours or something. She had a caller that called up and said she'd gotten a call from some outfit that said, for 10% of the money, your granduncle or whoever, or your grandfather has some money that you're entitled to, and for 10% we'll give you the info. So she called up Kim Commando, and they told her, they sent her a letter, and apparently it was $650,000. And she called up Kim Commando, and Kim Commando said, normally this is the Nigerian scam. We've all seen it.
Right.
She says, I went online, Kim Commando says, I went online. How long do you think it took me to find out if this was true or not? And she said, I don't know, a couple hours, whatever. She said, 45 seconds, and it's true. You are entitled to $650,000. I will send you the links on how to retrieve it. But for some reason, they seem to think that 10% or $60,000 was a little pricey. And I thought, no, it's not. If you didn't even know you $600,000 had a $600,000, excuse me, and somebody said for 10%, normally recovery on attorneys is 30%. But a real estate transaction, a regular real estate transaction where they sell you farmland, that's 10%. So
well, but the thing is, there's no transaction. All they're doing is going and getting the money and filing some paperwork. So the 10% is just there to lure you in. They're hoping that you give them 60 grand for it, but it costs them $6 to file that document. And there is a place in Florida. There's an am I owed money place in Florida that checks things like
she meant
relative who you don't know about that can be deposited there, and it's true. But be aware, there are robocalls out the yazoo these
Well, that's
days.
what she was saying. She said basically she had done some research on this, and apparently because what had happened is this girl had sent Kim Commando the email and Xerox of the letter and everything like that. So she did a Better Business Bureau search or whatever it was and found out it's a legitimate organization. This is what they do, and but I did the research, and here's what you need to do, and you can cut them out basically.
Yeah.
So I thought that was, but I mean it was one time in a million. You know that talk about winning the lottery. So.
If you get a call from the IRS and they say they're going to put you in jail unless you call back.
Well, not only that, they'll say we're going to have somebody come over and collect the money.
Oh, is that right?
Oh yeah, we'll accompany you to the bank.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, that's
crazy.
A scam. Alrighty, now we're done. I think.
Hey. Oh, I wanna play this for our listeners here. This is what I thought of the Peter Stork fiasco.
Struck.
Yeah.
Call Fielding Mellish. Mr. Mellish, what is your nationality? Well, you might say I have two nationalities. Are you being coy? Well, I am an American citizen and also the president of San Marcos. I would not joke with this court if I were you. Wouldn't you, or couldn't you?
That's enough.
So that is from Bananas. That is Woody Allen, of course.
Interviewing himself.
Doing his thing. And that's about as good as I thought Gowdy's cross-examination was. Oops. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. We will catch you next time.
Wednesday at 4 o'clock.
Yep. And leave us a comment. Share this video if you'd like. Anywhere. It's fine with us. So, thanks for tuning in.